Most QA engineers spend their entire career testing features. Does the button work? Does the form submit? Does the data save correctly? But there is a whole category of bugs they never look for. Bugs that do not break the app. They break the people using it. Security vulnerabilities. The kind that lets an attacker steal user data, take over accounts, or bring down the entire system. And here is the uncomfortable truth. If you are not testing for them, nobody on your team is. Developers are focused on shipping features. Security teams, if the company even has one, only do periodic audits. That leaves a massive gap. QA engineers are in the perfect position to close the gap. You already know the app inside and out. You understand the user flows. You know where the edge cases live. You just need a framework for thinking about security. And that framework already exists. It is called the OWASP Top 10. A list of the 10 most critical web application security risks, updated every few years by the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. In this episode, we are going to break down what OWASP is, what each of the top 10 risks actually means, and how you as a QA engineer can start mapping them to real test cases today. This is the foundation. Everything else in this series builds on what you are about to learn. OWASP stands for Open Worldwide Application Security Project. It is a non-profit foundation that has been publishing security guidance since 2001. The most well-known thing they produce is the OWASP Top 10. A ranked list of the most common and impactful security vulnerabilities found in web applications. It is not a standard. It is not a certification. It is a community-driven awareness document based on real data from thousands of applications. The current version is from 2021. And the 10 categories are: broken access control, cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, security misconfiguration, vulnerable and outdated components, identification and authentication failures, software and data integrity failures, security logging and monitoring failures, and server-side request forgery. That list probably looks overwhelming if you have never worked in security before. But let me reframe it. Every single one of those categories describes something a QA engineer can test for. You do not need to be a penetration tester. You do not need a security clearance. You need curiosity, a methodical mindset, and the ability to ask the question, what would happen if I tried something I was not supposed to do? That is literally what you do every day. You just call it edge case testing. The OWASP Top 10 is your security edge case checklist. Let us go through each one. Let us walk through the OWASP Top 10 at a practical level. Number 1, broken access control. This happens when users can do things they should not be allowed to do. Change another user's data. Access admin pages without being an admin, view records that belong to someone else. As a QA engineer, test every role boundary in your application. Try accessing URLs directly. Try modifying IDs and requests. Number 2, cryptographic failures. Sensitive data that is not encrypted, or encrypted with weak algorithms. Look for passwords stored in plain text, credit card numbers and logs, HTTP instead of HTTPS. Number 3, injection. Sending malicious input that gets interpreted as a command. SQL injection is the most common. We will cover this in depth in episode 41. Number 4, insecure design. Security problems baked into the architecture itself, not just the implementation. Test whether business logic can be abused. Can you buy something for a negative price? Can you skip a required step in a checkout flow? Number 5, security misconfiguration. Default credentials left enabled. Error messages that expose stack traces. Directory listing turned on. These are configuration mistakes, not code bugs. Number 6, vulnerable and outdated components. Third-party libraries with known security holes. Not something you can test directly, but something to flag during code review or dependency scanning. Numbers 7 through 10 we will revisit across future episodes. But this gives you the core vocabulary you need. Let me show you how to translate OWASP categories into actual test cases. Take broken access control. In your test plan, you would add a section for authorization testing. For every protected resource in the application, you write test cases that verify unauthenticated users cannot access it, lower privileged users cannot access it, and that resource IDs cannot be manipulated to access other users' data. Concretely, if a user can view their profile at /users/1042, what happens when they change that URL to /users/1043? Do they see someone else's profile? If yes, that is a broken access control vulnerability. Critical severity. That is a bug report. For security misconfiguration, build a checklist. Does the app expose a stack trace when you throw an unexpected error? Does it have default credentials on any admin interfaces? Does the staging environment have the same protections as production? For cryptographic failures, check your network traffic. Open the browser developer tools, go to the network tab, and look at what gets sent in requests. Are any sensitive fields appearing in plain text? Are cookies marked as secure and HTTP only? None of this requires specialized tools. It requires attention and intentionality. The key shift is this: stop asking only whether the app does what it is supposed to do. Start also asking whether it correctly prevents things it is not supposed to allow. That second question is where security testing lives. Now let us talk about building a security testing checklist that you can actually use on your current project. Start with your application's attack surface. That means every entry point where data comes in from outside. Login forms, search fields, file upload endpoints, API endpoints, URL parameters, HTTP headers. Each one of these is a potential injection point. For each entry point, ask 3 questions. Can I send unexpected input here? Can I access this without the right permissions? Does the application reveal too much information when something goes wrong? Next, map your user roles. Most applications have at least 2, regular user and admin. Some have more. For each role, list what it can and cannot do. Then write test cases that verify the cannot do boundaries are actually enforced. Here is a practical tip. Create a second test account at a different privilege level than your primary test account. Use that second account to try accessing things that only the first account should see. If it works, you have found a broken access control bug. The most important thing to understand about security testing is that it is not a one-time activity. It is not a checklist you run once before launch and forget about. New features create new attack surface. Security testing needs to be part of your regular sprint cycle, not a special audit that happens once a year. Start small. Pick one OWASP category. Add 3 test cases to your next sprint. That is how this becomes a habit. Here is what we covered in this episode. OWASP is the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. Their top 10 list is the most widely used framework for understanding web application security risks. The 10 categories cover the most common and impactful vulnerability types: access control, cryptography, injection, insecure design, misconfiguration, outdated components, authentication failures, integrity failures, logging failures, and server-side request forgery. As a QA engineer, you can test for most of these without specialized tools. You need a methodical approach, test accounts at different privilege levels, and the habit of asking what should not be possible, not just what should work. Security testing is not someone else's job. It belongs in your test plan, in your regression suite, and in your definition of done. This is just the beginning. Over the next 6 episodes, we are going to go deep on specific attack types and techniques. Episode 40 is Burp Suite, the most widely used security testing tool in the world, and it has a free community edition that does everything you need to get started. If you found this episode useful, subscribe to QA Career Lab. New episodes every day covering the skills that make QA engineers genuinely valuable. See you in the next one.